Hi, I'm Christan with Edwards Instrument Company, and I'm terrible at interviews, so please everyone bear with me. Brittany
Yes.
Lasch is here with us today. Drove over last night because you have family in the Chicago area, and came in today for biannual horn maintenance.
Something like that. Yeah, you always help me out once or twice a year.
So you've been teaching for how many years now?
It's my 6th year.
At Bowling Green?
Yes, in Ohio.
Yeah, because there's a couple Bowling Greens. Can you tell us how Bowling Green got their name?
From what I understand, a postal worker from Bowling Green, Kentucky moved up there and said, let's just name it the same name. So super original.
So you've been there 7 years now?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
And before that, you were in Boston, weren't you?
Yeah, I had about a year between finishing my doctorate and getting that job, so I was freelancing.
What was your dissertation on?
I didn't do one.
What?
No, I did 5 recitals instead. I went to BU for the recital track where you had to do 5 very specific different recitals, but there was no dissertation because I knew I wanted to perform. So.
And you still are performing a ton.
Yeah.
Last year you performed at ITF. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
That was a trip. I was really honored to be asked to be a guest artist. And so I had my recital lined up and I got asked to do the All-Star trombone choir and some panel things and had this whole week, right? And I was supposed to teach at the youth workshop, and luckily I got hired to teach at BU the Tanglewood Institute, where the BSO is. And so because of that, I called up the host and I said, listen, I can't turn down 6 weeks of teaching. So he adjusted. And so I flew in, drove to Albany, flew to Atlanta, flew to Little Rock, drove an hour to Conway, rehearsed with piano, woke up the next morning, did the recital, did the All-Star Choir, did a panel discussion, and then left the next day.
Oh my goodness.
So it was quick, but it was good. I got it all done.
That's intense.
Yeah.
That's intense. Now, I know that you're active in performing and teaching, but you also, I respect you because you take care of yourself when you're on the road. How do you balance? And do you think about ratios? I'm kind of a numbers guy. I don't know if you've noticed. Like when I look at things, I try and analyze specifically. I want to know why an instrument does what it does. So I go to numbers is my go-to. But do you have a ratio for like when you're on the road, I need to exercise this much so that I can maintain this and even your lung capacity? And how do you balance that?
Well, when I'm on the road, the first thing that's most important is what's going to make me play the best. And so usually it's not running or weightlifting. It's like power walking on the treadmill to get the blood flowing. Because when I travel, my face gets stiff. And when your face is stiff, the only thing you can do is get circulation in it. So I always try to budget time to spend 45 minutes on the treadmill, even if it's just walking. And sometimes, to be honest, I take beta blockers for high pressure performance. So you don't want to be getting the heart rate up if you happen to take them.
Right. So when you're exercising, it's counter. You're like, my heart rate won't go up because I'm on a beta blocker to keep everything else. Okay.
I don't do that every time, but there's some things that I think that more musicians should admit they take them before.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because I've actually done studies on my physical body, how it would do during performance. I would not high pressure situations. Like if I was playing a church gig, I would wear a heart rate monitor. I'd slam a cup of coffee. And then I would go on stage and I would track my heart rate through the performance. And it's interesting when you know how your body's going to respond under certain situations, you get to where you accept it and then you can handle the situations better.
For me, I'm so anxious the night before something and the morning of it, but then as I'm getting to it, it's kind of like I accept it. And then once I'm on stage, I'm actually pretty calm.
So physically, to take care of yourself, you do that well in advance. When it comes time for it, you'll do some little walking.
Yeah.
And I actually found that adrenaline levels, you want to keep them at a moderate because you want to have an exciting performance.
Exactly.
And you don't want to be on a razor's edge where you can fall off either side.
Exactly. If I run, I will be too exhausted to give an exciting performance. But if I have just enough of the edge taken off, it'll be a fun time for everyone, hopefully.
Well, and these are things I think more performers can think about, and that's why I thank you for sharing this with us. And with beta blockers, do you have to get a prescription from your doctor? Yeah, and if I'm correct, the real reason the drug exists is to lower blood pressure for people with high blood pressure and heart conditions. So all it does is really take my heart rate down about 20 clicks. It does have side effects like dry mouth and a few other things, but
over the past 15 years that I've been taking them, the benefits outweigh the cons. And like I said, only for the really high pressure things. And I think if you gave me a placebo, I'd probably have the same reaction.
Well, and it's funny because whenever I was racing bicycles when I was much younger, I had certain foods that I would eat with red peppers in them.
Yeah.
And when my body would eat that, it knew it was time to race. And I would only eat that meal before a race. And then my body, it was funny, it would start responding that way.
Interesting.
And so I think that we can, even by taking, at a certain point, even a placebo probably would.
Yeah.
Because you've done it so much that your body's like, okay, and now we do this.
And same with the food thing too. Like for me, I can't eat too much or too little. That's why my case is actually full of snacks. I learned that the hard way a few years ago.
Oh, really?
I was really nervous I was actually playing Bolero, and I was so nervous the whole day I didn't eat. And then we got to the intermission of a very taxing concert, and of course Bolero was at the end, and my blood sugar tanked. And luckily another musician gave me a granola bar, but ever since then I have fruit bars and nuts in my case.
Well, and so when that happened, what were the side effects, if you don't mind me asking?
And I just felt thin and like I couldn't breathe. And so like you have to have enough food in your stomach to be able to take a deep breath and feel centered.
Interesting. I know of another musician that he eats a very large meal before a performance because for whatever reason, his body responds best with that.
Oh, interesting.
So that if he has, and it's more for big performances or solo performances, but everyone's different.
Yeah.
And I think finding what works for you is crucial.
It really is.
So one interesting thing about you as well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I am.
at one point you talked to me about you had an age where if you didn't have a job at that point,
yeah.
Can you explain this process?
Well, yeah, it was 27 because I started college a little early, and I had a really narrow-minded perception of what I wanted to do with my career, and New York definitely fueled that, and conservatory life and everything. And I felt strongly that if I wasn't making more than 50% of my income from trombone at age 27, that I should just hang it up, and 27 is when I got the job, so that kind of worked out well.
Well, and I think it provided you with a laser focus that you were intentional, and that this is obviously for the love, but it's also an income.
Yeah, but the other problem with that was at the time my only, what I thought was success was an orchestra job. Yeah.
It was the same for me. And then I got my job here, and guess what? I think I'm better at what I do here than I would have been an orchestral player. And I found my love. I get to play every day.
Yeah.
And I get an income, and I get 401k. But yeah, we all, when we're young, we think that we can only play in an orchestra.
And they teach you that too, for the most part.
Right, and that's success. And I actually don't know what success means anymore. I think enjoyment in life, fulfillment, getting to perform and do music that you're connected to. Because I found whenever I was out freelancing, there was a lot of times I was unhappy. Yeah. Because the musical environments weren't fulfilling for me. And so I would have rather stayed and just been in a practice room than perform music that was very unfulfilling for me. And so that's a very personal thing for me.
Yeah.
But I found a little niche in the trombone and brass world where I can do what I do and help you out, and know that with your upcoming performances and recordings and things, that I was a small part of it, which I thank you for trusting us to work on your instrument and provide you with an instrument.
Yeah, I was 15 when I came here for the first time. My first horn.
That's so crazy. And, it's interesting and one of your teachers was Toby Oft. And I remember Toby when he came in this room to try instruments back when he was in college. And it's fulfilling for me to see people's careers advance and see you out performing. Would you talk a little bit about freelancing after you got your job and your position? How do you, people always ask me how I balance my life, and it's actually very regimented because I have a very structure throughout the day that I go through so that I allocate time to each of my little pockets. When you're playing as much as you are, because you have a position in an orchestra, and where is that at?
The Detroit Opera. I play principal trombone, so it's a part-time orchestra, but it takes a lot of time.
And how do you balance your schedule and coordinate everything?
It's a lot. I'll admit that I've made personal choices to kind of have it only be me, so that my time is my own, besides what I have to commit to my students and everything. But with the opera, I have contract minimums that I have to fulfill. And what I kind of do is when I get my schedule, I compare it against the teaching schedule, and then I compare it to solo engagements or other freelance work that I have. And I kind of pick and choose. Something that a lot of my mentors told me would happen, but I didn't realize until I got the job, is that you're so much more confident when you have work to come home to. And so I feel like sometimes in the opera, I'm taking more risks because I have tenure there. And I play differently there than I do when I sub in other orchestras. But on the flip side of it, I also have to maintain a certain level that people expect from me. So that there's a little more pressure in that way, but I also feel comfortable in another way. And so when I audition for something, it's nice to know that the bills will be paid. But it's also like, well, I hope I rise to what people think Brittany Lasch sounds like.
And that also takes a little pressure off, knowing that you have a position.
Yeah.
You have I took a couple auditions, and I found that I advanced in some that I was just like, because I'm going to go play for me, and if they like it, great. But it takes a little bit of the edge off again.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's safety, you have a safety net, you have a job.
And I think my favorite thing about teaching, besides the fact that working with my students, I actually get better, because you can't tell someone to improve on something technical all day long and then go home and not do it yourself, is that I really view my teaching job, again, besides the teaching, as a subsidized career that I choose, because as a tenure track professor, you're required to do a certain percentage. 35% of my contract is research, which is playing, which is recording, which is all those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's partially subsidized. Besides my salary, they pay for that. So it's been really cool to deliberately have time off and make my own schedule. And now that I've been in teaching for 6 years, I admire orchestral players, and I love playing in orchestra. I really, really do. But I look at their schedule and go, wow, you're stuck. You can't take time off.
Friday, Saturday, some Sunday matinees at times.
Yeah, and you can't even practice as much as you want to, because you've got to be fresh for the show. So I didn't know this path was an option until the very end of my doctorate, and I kind of feel like I won a lottery ticket, because I really didn't know what was behind the curtain. It was a one-year job when I started. And then I liked the job, and so I auditioned for tenure track, and I got it. And so that's why I'm on year 5 of tenure track, but 6 overall. So
it's so funny. Life is full of opportunities.
Yeah.
And if you say yes, a lot of times you're so surprised by the outcome. And you look back a few years, and this last 5-6 years, it's gone fast. Because
of COVID. It's like, I feel like I've been there 2-3 years, maybe.
Right. And I've been here now 25, 26 years, and every year it just seems to go faster.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how life can be fulfilling and enjoyable when it's something you love to do. And I've never really wanted to work. And I
know what you mean.
I work very hard, but you understand. I love brass. I love doing every aspect that I get to, in the interaction with musicians like yourself. I'm so appreciative of it.
Oh. Okay.
So, is there anything upcoming that you want to tell people about?
Well, I'm finally recording a CD in May of some new commissions and some pieces that haven't been recorded before.
That's a compact disc for those young people that don't know. That's a compact disc.
We will be making some actual CDs, but mostly digital. So I'm really, really excited about that, because that's been something that I wanted to do since I was 16 and heard Christian Lindbergh.
So how do you organize the whole process? Because a lot of people out there, they don't know. They're like, I want to do a recording, but they don't know from start to finish. So can you just give us a few?
Well, honestly, I think this has been an 8-year process, which started with my first commission, and something that I didn't realize BGSU has is an international reputation for new music. And so right now my career is kind of old music and new music. I do the middle, but I've really gotten support for the new music, so I've been commissioning a lot of pieces over the past couple of years. And then I've been playing those pieces on different programs live, and then I kind of teamed up with my friend Tom Weaver. He's a pianist on faculty at Curtis. He played my last DMA recital, and we've maintained a partnership since then.
That's great.
Yeah, and through Astro Artists in Philadelphia, I'm always playing there, so he'll come play with me. So we've been doing these concerts, building up this repertoire, and then I did shop around for labels. COVID backed everything up about 3 years.
Yep.
So I had all these proposals. They said, we're interested, but like we got all these people to get through. So I actually have abandoned the label idea right now. And I'm working with a great engineer. And I just said, listen, we just got to get it done. Tell me what's possible. And so it's we just put it on the books.
Yeah.
For May, yeah. And that was the hardest part, I think, actually, just going, okay, I can't wait for other people to say yes. I'm just going to have to say yes for myself.
I think that's crucial in getting your product out.
Yeah.
And just getting it, somebody told me, I think yesterday, it was done is better than none.
Yeah.
and I actually love that. Just even doing this interview, it's like, okay, we're just going to do this. We
Yeah.
don't know if this is going to be great, but we're going to, and setting a goal and just doing it.
Yeah.
And then viewing it, and then you'll be a better musician because of what you did in that process, and then your next CD or recording will be even better. And so just getting your product done, and I struggle with this as well, because as a perfectionist, I'm like, the lighting's not right, this isn't right, this isn't right, and then just get it done. And I like that, and I admire that in your work, and that you set these goals and then you achieve them, and I'm excited to see where your career takes you. So thanks for joining us today. I'm really appreciative, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for your help here.
Bravo, kids. That was awesome.
Was that
Good.
under 15 minutes, Lexi?
Just about. That was good. Thanks. I felt a lot more organic than those questions.